I think we're ready to go ahead and start this meeting. If everybody can just quiet down a little bit. We're gonna start off with the Pledge of Allegiance and then a small prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bud, will you do the prayer for us, please?
Pray with me, please. Our most holy and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day you've given us that we might enjoy your bounty and the creation that you gave us. Father, as we gather tonight, give us a spirit of togetherness. Give us a calm spirit. But Lord, help us as we try to influence our governments instituted under your direction, with citizen participation. Now, Lord, we turn this meeting over to you, and everything that we say and do, we hope will bring honor and glory to your name. And we pray it in your name and only your name. Amen.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started then. First of all, I'd like to thank the Republican Women's Club for putting on this meeting for us, Mesa Media for taping it, and the Babe on In for so graciously letting us use their room. There's rumors that only city people can have a say on this. That's not true. Anybody can come in and make a public comment at the meeting on the 28th. You do not have to be a city resident. You don't even have to have property in town. The next thing, if you ask a question, please see Amico with the microphone so that they can hear it on the tape, hear what you have to say on the tape, and please hold it up close to your mouth. All right.
And just so I'm not running around the whole room, if you do have a question, please line up here so that I'm not having to run across from that side to that side and all over.
And when I see you go to Amico, I'll call on you. So I was going to start off today with trying to break this down to the simplest, most ridiculous thing in this code, I think. The city has stated that this code will not affect basically the local people, the R1 zoning or any of the neighborhoods. That's not true. So we're going to talk about babysitting tonight. I guess I'll stand up. So you have a packet at your table. If you don't, try and find one. Unfortunately, we didn't bring enough of them. At the top of it, it says Schedule of Use Regulations. I'll give you a second to find it. So, I'm going to compare the current land use code to the new land use code on the issue of babysitting, child care. If you look at the cover page, it says Schedule of Uses. This is where you would go in the land use code to find out if it's possible for you to do it in your home. We are talking in your personal home. So if you go to the bottom, you can see that I've highlighted child care facility, small home based. And if you look to the right, under every residential zoning, it has a P. P means it's permitted. If a use is permitted, there is no process to go through to be able to do that. So babysitting under the current code is permitted. You have to do nothing. You can babysit children anytime without anybody's permission. If you'll turn to the next page, this is the same code out of the proposed land use code here. You go close to the bottom, you'll find where I've highlighted child care, home, 6 or fewer attendees. If you look at the 4 columns to the left, you'll find an L there. L means limited use. That means you have to get the city's permission to babysit children in your home. So we know that now. You will have to get the city's permission to babysit children in your own home. If you'll turn to the next page, the next place you would go is to see what it takes to babysit children in your own home. You look at the section that's highlighted, applicability. The uses shown as limited or limited accessory may be approved by the zoning director if they meet the general standards set out in section B below, together with the standards of this subchapter and all other applicable requirements of this code. Okay, below that is what you have to do. In the proposed in the proposed location and the proposed limited use or limited accessory use will not conflict with the implementation of the comprehensive plan or any other plan of the city. I don't know how it could conflict with it. But number 2, the limited use or limited accessory use is compatible with the surrounding land uses and the natural environment and will not materially detract from the character of the immediate area or negatively affect the anticipated development or redevelopment of the surrounding area. That shouldn't be too hard to meet. The application submittal requirements and procedures are limited and conditional use are set out as follows. So now we have to turn to section 903 in the new code book. We have to go through this whole process to figure out if we can babysit children in our own homes. If you turn to the next page, I may have got these out of order. Okay, my packet's out of order, so I did a terrible job. Give me just a second here. Let me see how that one is. I hope they're not all out of order. Okay, so hopefully you have the next page is page 37. Okay, so 37 is going to tell you the criteria you got to meet. For child care home, 6 or fewer attendees, it may be permitted, subject to CDHS Division of Child Care licensing standards for the business owner or manager of the facility, and as set out below, if the daycare is operated in accordance with all the requirements listed below. So here's what you have to do. You have to get a license. A license is issued by the Colorado Division of Child Care, CDCC, and proof of such license is submitted and accepted by the zoning administrator. The problem with that is the state doesn't always require you to get a license. If you're only babysitting a few kids, you don't have to have a license from the state, but they want you to provide them with a license. So that's going to be an issue. The provisions of off-street parking spaces are as set out in Chapter 7.01, Parking, Loading, Access. The hours of operation are between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m., so they're limiting the hours that you can babysit. I don't know what happens to the people with shift work. The proposed daycare facility complies with the requirements of the currently adopted building, fire, and safety codes of the city and shall obtain a certificate of occupancy after all requirements of the Colorado Department of Health and Environment and Colorado Department of Human Services have been fulfilled. And proof of such is submitted to and accepted by the building official and prior to its occupancy and start of business. So you're going to have your home inspected by the building inspector too. So now we have to go to the parking requirements. So to the next page. It should be, just in case some of the others got out of order, it should be page 202 at the bottom. So we've got to look at the off-street parking spots that we're going to need to babysit one child. First of all, your single-family detached, just the process of going through this limited use code is going to enact this whole code because it's a change of use. So first of all, your single-family detached home will have to have 2 spaces just for the home in order for you to live in it. Then you turn to the next page. Well, that's coming. You're getting ahead of me. So the next page, you'll find that at the top I've got highlighted child care family home, and it requires one space per 3 children. So you have to provide another parking space. That's 3 off-street parking spaces. The front of your house and the side of your house does not count. That's a driveway. So now we know we need 3 parking spaces to babysit one child. So now we need to know what is required of your parking space. You flip the page, and you'll find that generally parking spaces shall be 9 feet by 18 feet. And that is, the 18 feet is not from the street. The 18 feet is from your property line, which is usually 10 to 12 feet behind the curb and gutter. So it's not like you're going to have a 18 by 18 foot driveway. You're going to have more of a 18 by 28 foot or 30 foot driveway. And you're going to have to pour an extra 9 by 18 foot off-street parking to babysit one child. Now that parking spot, those parking spots all have to be impervious, meaning they have to be concrete or asphalt. I'm in the construction business. Those are the 2 most expensive items you can buy. Okay, so we flip to the next page, and that's where we find out that our garage space does not count towards our parking requirements. And once you've done all that, and they've approved it, now you can babysit a child legally. If you decide not to go through this process and they catch you, they can fine you $2,650 a day per day. Every day is a new violation. Yes.
Dave, I did find in the new land use code that they did reduce it down to $4.99.
Where did you find that? It's because Tracy actually told us that. I made her tell us that at the Realtor meeting, which was just a week or so ago.
Okay, I'll go find it.
It's in 11.0106, but that was the original. Microphone. Oh, sorry.
Leave it
I thought my mouth was big enough. It's in section 11.01.06, A1B. And that is the original amount that was in there. They said in the September the 24th meeting, Mike Green said that it went to $26.50. And at the Realtors meeting, they reiterated that.
It was $499 or whatever originally, but they amended it to $26.50 because they took the jail time out. It was $499 a day and up to 60 days in jail, I believe. So just under 200,000. So I don't want to take up all the time that we have tonight because we've got several speakers. And Larry Don needs to come down here and sit with us because he's going to speak tonight, right? Yes. I saved a spot for you. Anytime, just.
Are relatives exempt?
It does not specify that. It doesn't specify if relatives are exempt, so we have to assume they're included.
Excuse me. All right, my son isn't at this meeting. He works hard. He has to be up at 4 in the morning. Him and his wife are raising 2 children. Their mother is in jail. She's a meth addict. He's been raising them since close to birth of the second child. And they love them like their own. The narcotic officers in this town have recommended to Child Services that they be the ones to raise these children, be given pro custody. They applied, and the town wants, I think it's $395 per child for paperwork. Now, they have a house, but they rent it. Will their landlord have to change the parking area? It was really close to the house next to them.
Yes.
So that they can keep these children? Or do they go back to her when she gets out of jail?
Not if they're raising them.
They are raising them, and they know it, but it's not a legal thing yet because they haven't got.
And it's not clear on that either. This whole thing is not real clear, but what I've given you tonight is real clear, but things like family and stuff isn't clear.
They are family.
But I'm assuming this would apply to somebody who's charging for the service.
Oh, they're not. No, they're not. They're not getting a penny to raise
Right.
them.
So
Yeah.
So I would not think that would apply to them.
Okay.
But if you are babysitting children and you are renting, yes, the landowner would have to put in the extra off-street parking if it didn't have it.
I don't know how she could do that because it's the landlord. The houses are like a driveway apart.
And that's another issue. Yeah. They may not
thank
have
you.
room to.
I was very concerned. Thank you.
Hi, I have a concern. I go to my son's house, which is here in town, and watch a 3-year-old and then 2 older kids after they come home from school. Is this exception, I can't even talk, is this an exception to the land use code?
First of all, I need to make a disclaimer that I'm not a land use code expert. I've gotten thrown into this because we have several businesses, but I would have to assume that would be an exception if they're being raised in that house. I think this is meant for people who are doing it for profit. It's child care, which
I'm certainly not paid.
Right. So I don't think it's not quite that far yet, but it is down to the level of if you're getting paid for babysitting, this is what you're going to have to do. Right. And my point of this whole exercise today was if it's this much fun to get to be able to babysit one child. Imagine what it's going to be like to try and start or run a business in this town. And we could sit here for hours, and I could tell you things in this code that are just so ridiculous, it's not funny. Every time you open it up, you find something new. As a business, your holiday lights are regulated. You can only have holiday lights up from November 15th to January 31st under this proposed code. Just there's things like that in it everywhere you look. It's so far overreaching, it's unreal. Is there any other questions before I turn the microphone over? I guess I should have introduced everybody, or I guess they can introduce themselves when I give them the microphone, but does anybody else have a question? Okay.
I'm kind of new to this because I just found out recently, so I guess I don't know a lot of the background. I don't understand. Is the code coming from the state? Is that what this is?
No, the city contracted people to write this land use
And
code
why?
for us.
Who of the city did? I'd like to know.
Years ago, they had a small group that they formed that was called Heart and Soul. And Heart and Soul, the way I understand it, Heart and Soul recommended that they rewrite the land use code. So they got a few grants and threw in some of their own money and hired an out-of-state contractor to come in and decide what we needed to do.
So basically what you're saying is I know there's going to be a vote on this. You're voting as a city council, is that correct?
The city council will vote on this. It's coming up for vote one last time.
And my other question is, because I've been hearing that this will reach out into the county properties as well, is that correct?
We believe it is. There is a paragraph on page 11. It's called extraterritorial, and it refers to a state statute which refers, and that's one of our handouts, the one that says Justia.
Okay.
It refers to, the title of it is Regulation of Business and Powers to Regulate Business. Nobody really knows if they can do that or not, but.
So basically the public meeting is so you can get a feel for our community if we're against it or for it.
I'm
to
sorry,
vote that way?
didn't you hold the microphone?
So basically you're having public meetings to make a determination if our community wants this to happen or not, or what is our purpose of being here? Do we get to say we don't want it and we're going to be
Yes.
listened to?
Yes. I'm not on city council, by the way, and if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
The city has refused to talk to us anymore. They will not have any more public meetings. There have been people, the realtors requested a meeting with them, and they did meet with the realtors. But as far as organizing their own public meeting, they have told us they will not do that. No, they are no. Microphone. I was asked if they were invited to this meeting tonight, and yes, they were on several different occasions, and I don't see any of them here. Is it? Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you for coming.
I want to apologize in advance for being outspoken and offending anybody. That's not my intent.
Welcome to the club.
My name's Ed Gilbert. We live in Dolores, Colorado. We own Cortez Cab and Durango Cab. We started our business in 2012. Everybody told me I was a fool for doing it. We did it. We've excelled. We've exceeded. We now employ over 30 people in this area. We have a gross revenue over $1.25 million gross revenue. Of course, a ton of that goes to the state and federal government, and I'm to here with it. I'm not going to go there. I'm just upset because of all this freaking over-regulation. Why? Why?
Yeah.
And you can't answer that because the city council ain't here, obviously. Why? Why is the city council not here to hear us? Why?
Well,
Why do regulation when the existing regulation can't even be met or enforced? Why more? Why?
That's something.
We can't do it.
That's something you need
You
to
know
ask
what?
him on
I'll
the
stand up
28th.
for you people. I'll stand up. I didn't want to hear that babysitting bullshit for 30 minutes. Maybe some people did it in the babysitting business. I don't know. That's not what this is about. You guys are cramming crap down our throats we don't need. We don't want it. Where's the city? Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Thank you so much. You've done
Yes.
more for this county, in my opinion, and I truly believe that. You've listened to me complain to you and even commissioner meetings. Thank you. Please, what is going on here? Nobody can answer why. If you can't answer why, and why is it better, then get out.
Thank you. And also, I would like to thank Mr. Noyes for coming, for going out of his way. And I know that he can't answer questions. If he answers questions or things like that, then he won't be able to vote on this. All he can do is attend and listen, I believe.
So to answer part of your question, why we're having this forum is because Dave stood up at the October City Council meeting and got it stopped and said that the community did not know about this. He said he would make it his business, that the community knew. We said we would help him, and that's why we're having forums. And that's why we've asked people to read through the code and inform us, because trying to read 460 pages is not something we can do that.
I just wanted to add, go Navy, beat Army. Thank you. My name's Charles Jeter. I grew up in Mancus and went out to the Navy. Long story short, I'm a student now, and for some reason, by the grace of God, I actually got the field of urban studies and planning. So I'm taking the courses over in San Diego State University, and I come up here. My mom lives up here, and I bring my kids up here all the time. I'm a member of the Four Corners Gun Club, because that's where I can go shooting, and not in California. And I intend to come out here and retire. But of course, I thought I would actually get an internship first. Maybe I'd actually do that, and I was hoping to do that. And then I came out here. People started asking me questions because this is my field. So with your permission, I'll give you about 3 different points that I want to make about this, and it probably will lead off what you're about to say. First thing is, this is not a unanimous vote by the planning committee. There was 3-2 vote from what I saw in the minutes. The second thing is, the minutes for the planning committee were not on their website. Okay, I found that to be a little bit odd. I went through, I talked to one of the city planners, the associate planner, and I think they're a little bit intimidated at this point. Personally, I think if I had this much blowback, I would probably say, hey, let's pull this, sit on it for a year, get everybody involved. There's something called outreach. I have a book in my hands. Hold on, I'm just going to give that to you real quick. Okay? That's a planning book that's written by one of my instructors. And I have some pages bookmarked in there. I figured it might be useful because you're going to have to deal with this on the 28th, and I'm going to be back in school. The deal is, very simply, this is a Planning in the USA book. It's 3rd edition. He's up to the 5th. Okay? Really simply, outreach is not just having 3 meetings. Okay?
In 9 days.
Yeah, in 9 days. And by the way, I think you were the person mentioned in the minutes, if I'm correct. I appreciate that. Okay, because you pretty much stood against the whole big thing that was going on. 3-2 vote in the planning committee to go forward. There's 2 members that really should be heard about why they voted that down. A 4-3 vote in the city council, from what I saw. Maybe my count's wrong. Is that it? Okay. So 4-3 vote, very narrow margin that it could be actually put on. Okay. Now we're looking at March 31st, 2020.
January
30th. January 28th is the meeting, but March
That's the
31st is when it
implementation.
actually goes
Yes.
into action.
Yes, right before they leave office.
All right, so I have a presentation. Yeah, I was going to say I have a presentation in here that talks about the actual legal legitimacy of what happens when code goes in. It is disingenuous to say you can put the code in and then change it. I'm going to tell you right now, it's an uphill battle, and I have several Supreme Court statutes that I had to learn and I had to memorize, and I'm going to tell you right now, anybody who wants to come talk to me, I will go ahead and fill you in. I'll be at your disposal. I'm here for another week or so. Any kind of research you want, my professors, anybody else I can bring on it, I definitely will. It's a bit unfair. I don't want to land too hard on the planning people because they're really trying hard on this. I think that if they go back and they now take this feedback and they take apart the law, and all these people who showed up here, they actually want to participate, and they talk about it every week for about an hour or so in small groups, you guys are going to come up with an awesome code, okay? I do believe that. But what it is right now is very vague. I just looked at 2 or 3 things sitting there with Neva. And it's a phone book, okay? But I looked at a couple things and I was like, these are vague. You know, we have to look at them. The change document is one place. The maps are in another place, okay? And then when you look at it, it's got several different things that are contradictory just inside the actual code and what section you're looking at.
Correct.
I have problems with it. I'm just a student, but I'm also 48 years old. I've been on this planet a little longer than most students. So I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. I really do believe that the city council will make the right decision and table this for about a year. It's going to take about a year to go through this and pull things out. I asked Neva for flow charts. I said, do you guys have flow charts to basically tell people how to get these permits? That doesn't exist. Okay, so there's a lot of problems here. And then on top of that, as I went through all the minutes, I found out that they not quadrupled, quintupled the amount of daily fine. This is Cortez, Colorado. Okay?
Right.
25% of the people here live under the poverty level. We have non-native speakers here, probably about 18%. We have people from the reservation who are coming here trying to get a step up. It's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to business owners. It's not fair to minorities. It's not fair to anybody who's trying to deal with making a little bit extra cash on the side, which is what we're all trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And quite frankly, my thinking on that quadrupling the fine is so that they don't have to deal with you arguing. It's basically extortion. If they tell you to do something, you're going to do it because you can't afford $2,650. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I spoke earlier. Something that I forgot to mention, and everybody needs to hear this. This is the truth. You said the decision was based on something that the medians even down Main Street was based on.
Right.
Some kind of project.
It was a
heart to heart. Let me tell you about heart to heart.
Heart and soul.
Heart to soul, heart to soul. That's about the time we started our business. Okay? And we were all about being at every single community event we could. And that was a big way to reach the community. We're trying to provide transportation. Well, it was a good idea. I agree, it was a good idea. The only people that showed up at every event we went to, and we spent significant money on this to try to market our company and our services. The only people that showed up, hate to say it, but it wasn't the productive part of Cortez, guys. It wasn't. It was the people that wanted to show up for free candy and games, a place to drop off their kids for free babysitting. Every single one we went to. So I would like to see the statistics from that study.
They won't give them
And I
to
would
you.
like to see how much money we spent on Main Street for unnecessary medians and for this proposed land use code.
Roughly $1 million because I bid on
Okay,
that job.
thank you. I didn't know. I don't want to know. I don't have the time to know. I'm trying to run a business and employ people.
Exactly. And I wanted to speak to that a little bit, a part that you brought up of who was at those meetings. They refer to a, gosh, Lana may have to help me, a citizens committee that helped them do this land use code. I have only found one, I've actually found 2 people, I guess. I haven't talked to one to confirm it, so I'm going to say I've found one person that was personally invited to those meetings, and that was an engineer from Durango. And his comment, I've got his comments, and even he says some of this stuff is overreaching. So, if there's no other questions, then I'll pass this mic on. One thing I want to do before I do that, though, is ask everybody to share this video with everybody they know. And also, if we can get this many people in the city council chambers on the 28th, we can, 7:30. It's on Montezuma and Roger Smith Avenue. It's behind Taco Bell. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right.
And on that note, Dave, there is a yellow pad of paper going around. If you want a copy of any of the flyers, a reminder of the city council meeting, anything like that, put your name and address or email address on it. If you've already given it in the past, you do not need to do it again. Please print legibly, because I've gotten a couple of people that have scribbled and I couldn't understand it. And so if you haven't gotten it, sorry, couldn't read your writing.
January
28th, Tuesday.
And bring all your friends.
One thing I forgot to mention was that there is a 3-mile zone, and that's why I'm here, because of the gun club. And I think it's really important that people understand that the annexation rules are vague. That's what I went in looking at it. And so that 3-mile zone around Cortez is something that Colorado says that Cortez can make its own rules on how exactly they annex that. So anybody who's farming, who's inside the 3-mile zone, or anybody who's out there, all your friends who are out there, you need to let them know about this. It is an important thing to look at. I think the code can be done right. I think they need a little more time, and obviously they need a lot more feedback from people they didn't initially approach. And in my opinion, the outreach was done poorly. It could be done better. I'll be making some recommendations and sending it to all the city council members as well. I'm just a student, but it seems to be very clear that this can be done better.
That's another point that needs to be made, is they set a cutoff date of January 3rd for comments, but send them anyway. And send them to your city council members too. Carbon copy your city council members.
Yeah, I'm not for fighting this code so we can get a better code. I'm for fighting this code so we don't have a code at all, what we have. I don't like this. I mean, I appreciate the guy's going to school and he's learning something about unconstitutional taking of property, which nobody wants to go there anymore. But I don't want any more codes than we got. I mean, I'm for getting rid of this one right now and then working to get rid of what we have.
Or at least clean it up.
Or at least clean it up.
And cut
Thank
it
you.
back. So you made a very good point that I wanted to get across too. Even if this fails on the 28th, we should not quit, because they have pointed out to us things in this code that we had no idea were in this code that they just haven't enforced. They can still enforce some bad things that are in the old code, the current code. So you can look at it online. Okay. There's supposed to be 3 copies of it at the I believe I read they are supposed to keep 3 copies of it available at the city clerk's office. So I would go there and or if you want one and need one, you can come to my office and I'll gladly print you one out. But yes, in my opinion though, this land use code has killed enough trees already. This terrible land use code. So, but we have DNL construction on the highway. If you want, get with me after the meeting and we'll work something out. Okay, one more question.
Hi. Yesterday and today, I took out a petition and hit almost every business today. I don't know if some of you are here or not, but I got 3 pages where the businesses are against this, all these changes. And I'll tell you what, I never heard so many complaints about all the regulations and all the things they are forcing on these businesses. I'm almost thinking about writing a book.
You should.
I never heard so many complaints. And there are a lot of businesses that are very, very, very unhappy, and they're tired of paying for all these regulations that they're putting on these businesses.
Absolutely.
And it's really hurting our businesses. I wish the city council would work harder bringing businesses in. I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard they said that there are more businesses today than there was 10 years ago.
That's
How
not
many
true.
of you been up on Main Street?
There's 19 empty buildings on Main Street.
So where are all these businesses that they say there's more we have? I don't see them.
Right.
And more people are, you know, the
And
restaurants on Main Street, they're all hurting. I tried to go there to get them signed the petition. They're all closed right after lunch.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to be open.
And to your point, it is extremely important that the business owners show up too.
Well, I hope all you businesses that I seen you today are here, because it is very important.
And when you show up, they're going to ask you to state your name and your address. My driver's license says Cortez.
So does mine.
I sleep in the county, but my driver's license says Cortez. But at least mention that if you own a business, that you are a business owner.
I am.
It's very important that you mention that you're a business owner, because if you say, I live at XYZ County Road, whatever, and don't state that you own a business, they don't want to hear from you.
Well, I've been hit 4 times on graffiti on my building and on my fence. And I have to paint it, or they're going to fine me.
Exactly. They make
What's wrong with this police department? How come they're not catching this person? They're hitting everybody in town. And I mean, everything that they want you to do, if you don't do it, it costs you. Paint's not cheap.
Right.
And if you don't do it, you're going to pay a fine.
So
I've never seen them so fine happy.
They victimize you. You get victimized twice. First by the guy that sprayed the graffiti, and then by the city that forces you to paint it in a certain period of time, or you get to go to court and get fined. So.
Well, I don't think any businesses can afford all these things that they're trying to put on us.
Right.
And I hate to see anybody else go out of business. I would love to see more businesses, because I'm in business. And, you know, my kids grew up here. They went to school here. I graduated here. My grandkids graduated here. I have one great-grandson. He's 5 months old. I'm hoping he'll go to school here and graduate. I've got one on the way that I hope will stay here and graduate. But if we keep going the way we are, maybe there's not going to be a Cortez.
Right.
Because we can't take this anymore.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic on. Well, we got one more question, and then we'll pass it on.
I stopped at the library on the way here and got a copy of this code. 440 pages of crap.
Up from 170.
You can check it out at the library. They only got one copy. I don't know where the city keeps all theirs, but you can look at this at the library.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, I'm going to pass this to Tim.
My name is Jason Whitten. I'm going to default to Bonnie Lighton, who is the president of the Four Corners Board of Realtors, to kind of fill you in on how the realtors see this code, and then I will fill in the gaps as soon as she hands the mic back to me. But Bonnie, it's you.
He's been threatened not to say too much. Just real quickly, and I talk better if I stand up, so I hope y'all don't mind. I am Bonnie Layton, the president of the Four Corners Board of Realtors. And we came late to this also. I was surprised to see that a lot of the old code, or the current code, as they say, it's the same as in the new code. And most of us didn't know it was in the current code. So how we're approaching this is that we've created a task force. Right now I've got Terry McCabe, Jason Witt, Brenda Bates, and Melanie is going to come on with us as well. Jason is also our Western District Car Director, and he has some contacts with our state association, the Colorado Association of Realtors. What he found out when he contacted them is that the National Association of Realtors has what's called a land use code, land use initiative. And they're willing to help us. They do this all over the nation, and so what we're going to do is ask the council to reject. If they won't reject, we ask them to table it for a year. We've already sent in the documents to for the National Association of Realtors to, what am I trying to say, evaluate this land use code. We're figuring it's going to take them anywhere from 6 months to a year, simply because they're actually going to have to review the documents. But they can help us on this, and so part of what we're also going to ask the City Council is we're not just asking you just to give in, but we're asking to educate not only you, but everybody else. And we're willing to be on a, excuse me, my voice is going tonight. We're willing to be on a committee with them, a task force committee with them, whatever it takes for them to understand that what we need as a document is something that's clear, concise, easy to understand to the common person, so that if you want to babysit, you can find where it is in that section and you can find it. If you need to know what the building permits are, you can find it. It needs to be easy to understand for all of us.
Excuse me, Bonnie.
Uh-huh.
I ran over here.
You went over there.
I have a question for you.
Oh, no.
Or not actually a question. Asking them to table this for a year does nothing. They can, as long as it's tabled, because it started through the process, as long as it's tabled, they cannot change anything. So they must deny this and start over.
Mm-hmm. What?
Yes, there'll be a new city council in April too.
April.
5 new city council members out of 7.
And I will mention that Jason is running for city council. So what we're hoping is that he will have some excellent input to them. To think of some, I think some of the things they just don't deal with. For the most part, most of them, I can't say that, many of them have not run a business. They don't know what it costs to, if you're going to change your sign, if you're going to put in a backflow device, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so they need to see it from our viewpoint also. They don't understand what they're doing to our low-income families that can't afford to do some of the changes that they want done. They just need to be educated also. So I'm going to turn it over to Jason. He is my vice president. He's our car director for the Western District. He is several other things, but I'm not going to go into it. So he's the reason I'm here up here instead of sitting out there. So I came to learn just as much as y'all did.
Bonnie and I had a big debate of whether I wear the realtor hat or the homeowner hat. I'm a homeowner here in Cortez as well. But what I wanted to mention first is, on behalf of the citizens, what I did with the permission from Bonnie, because it has to be generated from Bonnie, it really does, is the National Association of Realtors Land Use Initiative was built for the protection. First of all, what I want to read is that the mission of a realtor is to preserve, protect, and advance the right to all real property, which means they want people to own and develop and to be the best, have use of the property that you have. And a badly written code prohibits that. And this code is badly written. So what I had asked the National Association of Realtors, and this is what I wrote, quote, speaking for the citizens, local citizens of Cortez, Colorado, initiated the request that the City Council reject the new land code entirely, with recommendations to Planning and Zoning and City Council to thoroughly review, amend, and clarify this burdensome document to something that is more consumer-friendly and which encourages enterprise. Now, what NAR will do is they will look at this. They will look at our bullet points that I submitted, that you put together, that the realtors put together, and say, is this valid? If it's valid, Like I says, this document is in Washington, D.C. right now. They will review it. They will send it to their law firm that represents the National Association of Realtors. That law firm will comb through this and create a memo to to the city council with recommendations for, if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. But they'll put this together. Do you know how much this is costing us? $0. This is what your realtors do for you. Just want you to remember that. We're more than just selling houses. We are here to protect your rights to own property. With that said, some of my concerns as a citizen is I want to see Cortez grow. You know, I love the small town, but if we don't increase a little bit, you know, we're destined to die. We have to do something. But these codes need to be, the biggest word is predictable. We shouldn't have to guess what's in a book and go, is it, or is it not? Do I have to go to the library and spend 3 hours to look at it? Is it predictable? That is law. That is what government should be. It should be predictable, and it's not. But it needs to be. Is it clear, and is it relevant? Does it enable growth? It doesn't. Does it encourage and allow affordable housing? Absolutely not. One of the things that we talked about with the city council to help them understand is, we'll just take non-conforming lots, just this. A non-conforming lot is a house that is built too close to an easement or too close to the border of its to its neighbors. It's not within the 25-foot setback. Without a good variance and a variance written into the law saying, hey, we're going to excuse or grandfather, what would happen if that house burnt down? It would not be able to be built on that same footprint, which means that homeowner would then have to come into compliance and remove that building. Well, a couple of things that occurs is, one, and I can't take credit for this. This was all Terry McCabe and Bonnie that brought this up, and Brenda Bates. Yes, I'm just a parrot. But what this creates is, it could create an issue with lending. And again, I'm speaking as a realtor here. Is an underwriter sees this, knows that the $180,000 that he's going to loan on this house could be lost if the house burns down and can't be rebuilt. That's a risk they're not willing to take. So what happens? If you don't have cash, the house doesn't sell. If the house doesn't sell, the occupant leaves, the house goes in disarray, and you've got an empty house on a lot that nothing can be done with. You know, we need a smart code. We need something that's going to enable us to build the affordable housing, to enable, you know, our cost of housing is increasing. And anymore, when you see a house that goes up for under $200,000, the house is gone quickly, because that's what our median income can afford. You know, what are we doing to promote that? We're definitely not doing it when we have so many restrictions that all of a sudden, and I'm not a builder, so I can't quite speak to that, but the builders, you know, have to make their money too. But at this point, to build a new house, that house is well over $200,000, because they have all this stuff that they have to deal with, and the rise of business, you know, and building costs, and all this compiles to a house that's not affordable yet. So what are we doing to address this? How are we making the affordable housing? And as a homeowner in a townhome complex, when I read this code, one of the things that got me up in arms, and fortunately we're in compliance, but had we not been, what I tried to help the town understand is, I just feel sometimes that they have blinders on, and they do work hard. I appreciate that. But the realization, what I try to help them understand, is that taking my condo complex, I live in the Park DeVita, I own a townhome in there, beautiful investment property. But for say that they come in and say, listen, your town, your subdivision does not have enough trees, doesn't have, you know, enough irrigation, or whatever the reason is, that would bankrupt our HOA. You know, our HOA, the reality of it is that HOA dues, if you're not in an HOA, barely cover the cost of insurance. Barely. With a little bit left over to help with road maintenance or things like that. They're not a money-making scheme. What would happen if it bankrupted, we had to raise insurance rates or due rates? People that could afford those houses now can't, because, yeah, the house might be affordable, but the HOA is $300. Now they're looking at a $1,300 mortgage payment, which they can't do. So so having these things in there is just, to me, again, as a citizen, not a realtor, to me this is ludicrous, because it endangers the small community that we are. I think about the 80-year-old woman that's in her house that needs to make repairs, and this is what could happen. Needs to put a new roof on it, and because it's up to interpretation, P&Z says, well, you need to bring that roof up into code. But she's got an older house that doesn't have the 412 pitch roof. She's having to bring her whole entire house up to code, which she can't afford. So she loses the house, and the house ends up empty. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of what ifs. But it just needs to be smart. And are we doing the things that that enables us to be a better, to enable growth, allow for affordable housing, and encourage businesses to come in? It's not like we're busting at the seams like Boulder or Denver, where we have to put the regulations on to kind of help regulate growth. Nobody's coming in. Bless the new home builders that are building homes, because we appreciate that, because that's what drives the economy. It's getting people here and there, but what are we doing to help say, come to our city? This is a beautiful place. We all live here. I love this little town. I'm not from here. I've only been here 11 years, but I love the town. But what are we doing to make the town the best town it can be? And having a smart code, in my opinion, enables us to do that.
And just really quick, I did talk to Linda Smith, who's the city clerk. She is a very positive person. But when I talked about the people that might want to talk, I was confirming that this next Tuesday, the land use code is not on the agenda for the city council. The workshop before that, they will have a 20-minute update from planning and zoning, which hopefully they will tell them they're getting a lot of comments. But on the 28th, what you're allowed to do is you'll be able to talk twice. You'll have 4 minutes. And so if you plan on talking, you need to have practiced it, prepared it better than I do. But you've got 4 minutes. So be clear, concise, and explain what it is that you're objecting to and why. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a homeowner, investor, whatever is like that.
That public input at City Council is open. You may go there and say anything you wish anytime. So if you go next Tuesday, you can still talk about this land use code. They cannot stop you. It's just not on the agenda.
You have to speak during public participation.
But the public participation portion of the meeting, you can go and talk about how lovely my grandchildren are. What I'm noticing tonight, and from the city, so forth and so on, we're hearing points about what's wrong with the land use code. Fine. There's lots of problems in this document. But what we're talking about when we talk about these individual points is, who does the alligator eat last? What we should be discussing at the 28th of January, if you speak, is not paragraph this, that, or the other. We are looking at tyranny, to follow up on what Chuck was talking about. We do not need land use codes, period, that go beyond the state constitutional requirement of health and safety of the citizens. Once they get beyond electrical inspection and plumbing inspection, we are not talking about health and safety of the citizens of the city of Cortez. We are talking about the loss of your property rights. If this passes, you have absolutely zero control of your private property. Without private property, there is no liberty, there is only tyranny. If you go and speak to city council Use the word tyranny as often as you can slip it in there. Just stand up and say, tyranny, 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 tyranny. If that's all you can say it. You can still point out chapter and verse of the code that's problematic. Say it from the standpoint of how tyrannical it is, and you don't want the alligator eating anybody. It's not whether he eats you first and he eats me last. That doesn't matter. It's tyranny, 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 tyranny.
Thank you. And I would like to add, first of all, please come to the 28th meeting, but if you're going to come, you need to get up and speak. Otherwise, you will be ignored.
And I would like to see a show of hands in this room of anybody who owns property. Does everybody in this room own property? If you own real estate, you own a piece of your country. How many people in this room don't own property and they pay somebody else rent for where they live? The same rules are going to affect you, maybe harder, in order for your landlord to survive and still provide you a home. What would happen if all of us didn't have our homes and we all became tenants? We have a huge privilege because we're able to own property. And our voice speaking up in a timely manner is what can help us hold on to that. Why feed the alligators anybody? And why mention tyranny without recognizing and acknowledging who the tyrants are? There is no tyranny without tyrants. And when we go to that meeting, that's who we're addressing.
Thank you.
I love this. Tyranny, liberty. We have to cling to our liberties. I'm new. I'm the newbie. I'm a Colorado native, born and raised in Delta County, and moved here 7 years ago, I think. And the county that I left was very similar to Cortez to begin with, very ag-based. And then they got this idea to get this, to set this up. Not just for the city, but then it crept out into the county. And crept out into the county. And pretty dadgum quick, it took over. And then that bunch of city council people that didn't know how to do land use codes and paid somebody else $1 million to develop it, well, then they all got off the board. So the next people came. They didn't know how to enforce it. They didn't know what to do. So what'd they do? They hired Denver. And Denver is now where anything that goes through Delta County has to go to. They have to make their applications and pay their fees to Denver. It's sickening. We have to stop this.
Thank you.
Guys, I came in here a little bit late. I was at a county planning and zoning meeting. You know, I sat on that commission. I've read this several times. I'm going to be real general. I'm not going to be specific, but the best land use codes provide for advocacy, not dictatorship. And when you go to a planning and zoning meeting, closer. When you go to a planning and zoning meeting, you ought to have advocates behind you to support you and to promote what you're doing, whether it's commercial or residential, not dictate to you what you have to do and provide barriers for that. So I want you guys to know that you need to show up and you do need to say something, or else it just, the fact that you're here now is because that didn't happen before. And we really need to get to a place where when you go to the city and you want to start a business, that you have an advocate. You don't have somebody telling you what to do. You have somebody helping you do what you want to do. So you guys really need to, this thing that we're playing catch up now, and it's hard to play catch up, especially with incumbents that are leaving. I mean, they're going away. So, like Mr. Waters said, not only do you have to show up, you got to speak up. And I'll let go of this.
I'm Don Kirk, and I own a house. We own a house in Cortez. I've made I guess, an unfriendly impression on the city council. I've been going to the meetings for at least a year now. I wasn't aware prior to that I could, and I've been going to them. And at one of the meetings, I stood up and I said that I basically accused them of being an Orwellian group that are trying to take our rights away from us. And they weren't very happy about that. And I've gotten some feedback from a number of people about it. And I think that that's the thing that we need to do. So we need to stand up. We need to let them know. It's been said here, whether we call them tyrants, whatever. I know there are sometimes good intentions, but I think for the most part, no, not in this case. So go to the meeting, stand up, and even though it's not on the agenda, let them know how you feel. And let them know individually how you feel, because these are people who do not want negative publicity in their lives. And I think that that's one of the most powerful things we can do is negative publicity for them. Thank you.
Hey folks, evening. My name is Dave Spiegel. Sideline, I'm running for city council here. One of the reasons I'm doing it is we have had serious management problems in this city. See those center death trap medians, those concrete monsters? See those things that they don't bother to plow and you're going to run into every winter every time we get a darn storm? Well, that's the ego of the current council. You know, with a few exceptions, that's what they're passing on to us, our mayor. And I got darn ticked off. And I figure, you know what? I can get ticked off or I can take action. There are two of us here, gentlemen up at this table. You know what? Every single one of us who gets elected, every conservative voice on that council, that we managed to push through this election cycle. No matter how many of us you put up there, we're still going to need your voices to back us up in that council chamber, because there are going to be interest in there. We get a 4-3 vote, oh, they're not going to go down easy. And they're going to try to work around committees. They're going to try to pull a fast one. And our representation of you is only as good as you showing up and getting our backs. We've got gentlemen from the County Board of Commissioners. Guys, they can only do as much for you as you show up and empower them to do. When you need them to be in your corner, when you need any representative from the governor to be in your corner, you need to show up and show the other side of the aisle that you're there, you're going to be heard, and you're not backing down. Tyranny has been mentioned. This land use code is death by 1,000 paper cuts. Increasing a fine from $499 to $2,600. They did that by eliminating jail time, ladies and gentlemen, jail time. What the hell kind of government we got that would throw somebody in jail over some bullshit violation of a land use code? This is ridiculous. Let's show them we mean business when we go to that ballot box. And all you who live in town and want to get rid of these sycophants who think they can do anything they darn well want this land use code, come see me after the meeting.
Thank you.
I need to say something about these dividers. A few weeks ago, I live on the Dolores Highway, and I was on my way home, and I saw a lady get hit right there at the divider in front of McDonald's. She was hurt pretty good. Blocked the traffic on both sides. We had 2 fire trucks. We had 6 or 7 police officers, a state patrol, the sheriff, and all that. You couldn't even get through. Then the next day, I'm coming to work, and this guy walks right out, didn't even push the light. And luckily, I was going the speed limit, or I could slow down to keep from hitting him. And then I'm over by the theater, and here comes the fire truck. I'm in the fast lane. I got 2 cars in front of me, 2 cars over here, plus all that's over here and all that's parked. I had no place to go. No place to go. And they're blowing their horn. You know, I didn't know what to do. And finally, the car in front of the car that was in front of the guy that was in front of me, he finally went out in the middle, and another one finally, we were finally able to get the traffic moved. And these things are dangerous. They're very, very, very dangerous.
And the reason
have you seen all the signs in the one in front of McDonald's? Whoa.
And the reason we have those is because people didn't show up to oppose them at the meeting. So that's what we need to change. Right. Right. They don't reach out well.
My name's Rafe O'Brien. I've actually have a meeting with Tracy next Wednesday, I believe, as long as nothing happens and changes. I have about 25 different things that I've been against on this. I mean, I sat through and compared it back and forth quite a lot, as much as I could anyway. My biggest one goes back to him talking about tyranny and the fact that they're hiding stuff from us, even in the existing code. There's the right to enter that I found in the back of this, that they can basically enter your property when, wherever, however, without you knowing, to do their job, or what they so call as being their job.
During normal business hours.
But it's, again, without telling you.
Right.
So they can trespass while you're at work without telling you, which is, I come to find out, is also in our existing code. So there's a lot of things in our existing code that we need to change, and like everyone else has said, is not being enforced before we can actually do this. Again, I have about 25, 30 different things back and forth. I could go on for days like everyone else. I've sent my everything to every city council member. I've sent it to the county commissioners. I've printed it off and sent it to everyone else I could. And again, like you said, every time you open it up, you see something new. The other one I brought up, the last thing, is a tiered fining program. No way in there should anybody have to pay that much money for the citing of your mobile home being wrong. I'm sorry. At least set a tier program. And, you know, that's pretty much all I have to say, is they can trespass and throw us in jail for everything. What's next?
And I might add, okay, I might add something to that, that it is the right to enter is in the current code, but it has lesser force to it. I can't tell you exactly off the top of my head, but it isn't as harsh as in this proposed code. Okay. Larry Don, you're up.
All right, well, thank you. I want to thank Mr. Noyes that sits on the city council that came here tonight to listen to both sides of the argument, as well as all of these people right here, as well as everybody in the room. So as a county commissioner, we have visited about this. Commissioner Candelaria is also here. Commissioner Ertel is out of the country, so that's why he's not here. We have no authority in governing the city, but I can tell you what the city does affects the county. I don't care what anybody says. If it affects in the city, it will affect the county eventually. The 3-mile zone, according to our lawyer, and that's just one lawyer's opinion, the only authority that the city has is they can help navigate the alignment of roads and utilities. So that sounds simple enough unless you have the wrong 3 county commissioners on that board. because this is what happened 3 years ago when they started the this new land use code. They brought myself, Commissioner Tell, and Commissioner Lambert at the time, one at a time, so that it wasn't a public meeting, to take us up into a room above the visitor center and asked if we would be on board to have the 3 mile zone require all of the businesses to have stucco on the face facing the highways. That means the John Deere store, the cell barn, well, I can tell you what I told them: go pound sand, and that's what the other 2 county commissioners told them. This is a big deal. I don't care if they tell you if it's a big deal or it's not. It's a big deal. So I'm going to tell you, being inside of government, why I think they're doing some of the things they do. There is a reason why this land use code is so vague. And this is actually information that has been given to the county commissioners on things that the county does. The vaguer that you make that land use code, when a citizen wants to sue the city for their rights being infringed on, it's harder for that citizen to win. If it is not black and white, there's a purpose why they make it vague. Don't let them fool you. The other thing that I want to say that is so important is they told you that we can have the written comments until the 3rd of January and no more written comments. As a county commissioner, and I believe I can speak for Commissioner Candelaria, is this: if you come to our board, you can hand us the paper as commissioners, we read all of that. But if you come to our board and you get up there and you're looking me in the eye and you're telling me how you feel about something, that is more important to me, and that has more weight than that paper. Think about this. What if they have 200 or 300 comments? And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but if there's somebody that wants the land use code against somebody that doesn't, they might just get thrown in the trash. How do we know? It's a way to quiet your voice. All of their meetings, as well as the county commissioner meetings, are recorded, and they are on YouTube, and they're on video. So you need to go. This is one important time. You need to show up on the 28th, and you need to tell them, no, we do not need this land use code. We need to fix our other land use code. And as Mr. Pope on our planning and zoning board said, this is how simple it is. If any of us want to do something, we should be able to walk into that government office and feel like they are trying to help us. Feel like they're, okay, what is it that I need to do? Let me help you get through this process so you can get that business going and hire somebody and grow our economy. If you don't feel that way, which is exactly what this city land use code is going to do, it's the wrong answer. Simplicity is genius. 416 pages. I tried to add it up. If you took 200,000, that's what it costs. What does this thing cost? $500 a page? It's ridiculous. The only reason that you do land use codes is what I have been learned from various other counties, because counties has land use code, is when you have exponential growth. When you're North Dakota and your town doubles, triples, goes 10 times in size, that's when you're like, oh boy, we better look at our land use code because we can't control all of this. We have no exponential growth in Cortez, Colorado. Now you got your Dolores town board doing the same thing, doing a land use code. That town isn't exceeding in growth. The harder you make it for people to make a living, you're going to kill your town. I am here encouraging you as citizens of this county and this town, go on the 28th, have your voice heard, tell those city councilors, we got a good one up there. There's some of them I'm not so favorable about. Tell them the way that you feel, and what they're trying to do is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry Don. So what we were... Okay, so what we were trying to do tonight is, instead of me just harping all night long on things that I didn't like, we've brought some variety here. We've got the realtors, county commissioner, I'm actually a contractor, and then we asked Jody Henley as a homeowner who's actually read the entire code to comment on some of the things that she found. So here you go, Jody. 15 minutes of fame.
So Dave kind of said that, but I'm a resident. I bought my home 3 years here. I bought my home 3 years before I retired here in 2007. I bought an older home in an older neighborhood because that's what I like to do, reuse instead of tearing down more trees and things. I remodeled the inside. I built a garage, which now, according to this language, my garage it's attached because I have a breezeway, but it's 50 foot from my main residence. And according to this new language, even though I got a permit, it was inspected, it was done legally by the city, they're now saying that that accessory building may not meet their standards. So there's $50,000 down the drain, if I have to do anything. My first and foremost issue with this document is the language. It's ambiguous. It's subject to interpretation, allowing inequitable application of the rules. To me, the rules should be stated in clear, concise, definitive words that leave no room for interpretation. All terms, if you make a material change, what's a material change to me? They don't have any examples or a definition for that. Portable storage, what's considered portable storage? They should be fully defined so everybody understands and it's not at that moment's interpretation. This is the only way to ensure that all homeowners and business owners are treated in a fair and equitable manner by current city employees as well as future city employees. The proposed the proposed land use code is designed for a city with economics and demographics that are far different from Cortez's. This is for an affluent city. Someone's already mentioned we're 22 to 25% poverty level here. We are not an affluent. My neighbors, many of them have lived here all their life. They're older, their homes are older. They can't afford to do any modifications by this. I myself, when I remodeled in 2008, I put a brand new metal roof on. Should last me the rest of my life, but it's a 312 pitch. I'm now thinking about enclosing my patio, which involves putting up 2 walls. And I'd have to raise the roof because it's got a flat roof. But I would have to replace my entire roof, which that makes, and they'll say to you, oh, that's not what it's intended, but that's what the document says. They can't go, they need a document that details everything precisely, not to be interpreted by, that may be what Tracy says today in her position, but what about the person 5 years from now if Tracy's not there? So that's cost prohibitive to me. I can't do anything, and most of my neighbors won't be able to afford to do any modifications to their houses. The other thing, there are numerous errors in this document, and those need to be corrected prior to approval and implementation. You don't put a flawed document into law. And once they vote yes on this, it is the law. And if they're not enforcing it, then they're derelict in their duties. It is their job to enforce the document they put into place. We don't want them to, and I'm thankful they're not, but I agree with the other people. They just need to go through the existing land use code, take out the things we found like the 412 roof pitch, which we didn't even know existed because they haven't been enforcing it. But at least in the old document, they have an exception for modular homes, mobile homes, so that manufactured homes, so that they do not have to have a 412 pitch. The new document requires all homes in a residential area to have a 412 pitch, which means that young people That's usually the first thing they can buy that they can afford to. The only thing that the businesses, the pay scale in this area allows them to afford is their first home. They're not going to be able to do that. They're going to have to buy a more expensive upgrade. So I better get back on my track here. That's why I have notes. But and then people have already touched on this, is like, we do not want the design of our homes and businesses dictated by the limited visions of a few citizens. We do not want cookie cutter homes and neighborhoods. We do not want our Main Street business to look alike. This will diminish the character and the charm of our city, and the citizens of Cortez and Colorado value their individuality. And then just a few things that I picked up on. The 412 roof pitch item I've already discussed. As a homeowner, these are the main things that jumped on me. And let's see, so that page is pretty good.
You have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't, no, because the pole's in my way.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I asked earlier who all owned their property in this room. I wonder if in this room there is a single real estate property appraiser who can explain the increase in value of somebody's home because they have a different pitch on their roof. This is just... And could you give a property a higher value because of the pitch of its roof? Absolutely not. And yet, our government is fixing to put that, pardon the expression, extortion on us. You could do jail time if you don't change your roof.
I'd like to make a comment on that too. The steeper the pitch of the roof, the more it costs to put on, even brand new. So there's so many things in this code like that increase the cost of building. I can't even start to count them. And it's mostly geared towards affordable housing, type housing. When you have to put, you can put a 412 pitch roof, order a trailer, a mobile home with a 412 pitch roof, but it's going to cost you a considerable amount more because it's harder to transport. It's higher. They're requiring things like all the HVAC equipment be hidden on apartments and lower income housing. So there's all kinds of things in this codes that will drive up the costs of housing terribly.
Oh, sorry.
I'd just like to say something. I'm originally from a farming community in northeastern Ohio, and I spent 25 years in Southern California because of my husband's job. When I first saw this area in Cortez, it was such a relief to me. I escaped Southern California as soon as I could. I think it's the difference in the way the buildings look. We have some real treasures here, I think. It's a whole different ambiance. If you are primarily a city dweller, I would think that as one of the attractions of this area, I know it was for me. The people here, to me, are what I consider normal people, which they weren't where I lived, and very independent people as I am, and I just don't think that we need to have, as you said, cookie cutter homes or have all of the buildings have concrete faces or painted the same color. We're a small community, relatively speaking. I wouldn't want to live in that environment again. I had enough of it. Thanks.
Okay, and a lot of the residential or the building standards for residential are in 3.06. And in there it does state, and somebody has touched on this already, but if you're the second owner in a neighborhood, if you got a new subdivision and you're the second owner, guess what? You got to build your house by the design that your neighbor built and use his colors. The first person in. It says that house materials must be the same as your development, not only your development, as well as adjacent developments. So what we're going to see is a sea of the same color, even in different neighborhoods. That goes back. We don't want cookie-cutter neighborhoods. It's going to affect the design of your homes. As to where your windows can be placed in some instances. So, and how your house faces. You buy a piece of property and maybe you wanted to see the mountain over here. They're saying, no, your house has got to face this way. They're telling you how to place your house on your property, and that shouldn't be allowed. As long as you meet the setbacks and all, you should be able to design your home the way you want it. I'll stop and let this gentleman. Say your name again.
My name's Charles Jeter.
What?
Charles Jeter.
Jeter, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to mention, Commissioner Suckle, I did look at how the county did their minutes. I think the transparency is probably one of the most glaring things I've seen between the city of Cortez and the county of Montezuma. And I appreciate the fact that everything people say in your meetings, you guys document. I mean, up to and including the role of who's there and people's letters, everything else, warts and all, it's out there. And I think that's probably how, if you people are going to look at this and how to go forward, you got to get more transparency there. Because I did about a year's worth of minutes, and it took me some time going through Montezuma County and also through the city, and I only saw one reference. I think it was in September was the first reference I saw. That was a little bit abnormal to me because other places I study, they tend to have people come in for quarterly meetings if they're working on something longer than a year. You'd think there's a little bit of oversight. And so you'd have somebody coming back in just to kind of dog and pony it and say, hey, we've just finished these sections of the code, et cetera. And there was nothing for 9 months, and I didn't go through 2018, but I can only assume it's the same way. And then they had a 3-2 decision. And so I think the lack of transparency is why people are the most upset. And I think that needs to change in Cortez. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm assuming with new people, that'll be a first priority. And it doesn't seem like it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of shared resources between the County of Montezuma and the City of Cortez. So I think that's a big deal. The other thing is that I can't emphasize enough, what you mentioned was paramount. I have my finger on the book here. There are about 9 different codes that came through Supreme Court about planning. If this gets passed, it is the law. As a homeowner, it is your burden of proof to prove this needs to change. That's the way it works. That's the way it works across the entire nation. And, of course, this gentleman here mentioned tyranny. I know it's one of those things that when people hear it on the opposite side of perhaps where we vote or whatever, they just tend to kind of, gloss over it. They think it's just a buzzword, and it's not. When you put things in law that are vague, you allow for more interpretation, which then leads to what we know as tyranny. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I would just like to say something. The county, since I've been a commissioner, has tried to have joint meetings with the city council because we need to work together, not against each other. And I'm going to tell you right now, I believe that our current mayor is the reason that we have never had to have those meetings come to fruition. We have tried. That's how you get things done, when you can have council members meet. And if you ask me, my personal opinion, the staff, not all city council members, but the majority of the city council members are run by the staff, and the city council members don't tell the staff what to do. I have seen it over and over again. And as far as the building of a home, I believe it is an elected official. It is none of my business how you build your damn home.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to mention and emphasize, you're absolutely right. There is something called the Freedom of Information Act. You can look at how these staff do things. I hope everybody here tonight goes back and they say, I want to spend 1 hour a week basically watching how these people do business. Because I noticed that thank you very much for bringing that up, because that is a point. I did notice that staff, and typically in a city manager role, the way they work that whole thing, people take the staff's recommendations and they trust it, but you can't set it and forget it. That's not how you do business. And that's what I'm seeing when I'm auditing these minutes. And it's tedious. It's hard to do. And I'm actually just going through trying to actually understand all the ins and outs of this. But I'm just a junior in college on this. And it glares to, I'm a veteran, I'm a junior in college. It ain't my first rodeo, but I will tell you, you have to have more transparency, and everything you just said is absolutely right. If you can get these people to work with you instead of an adversarial role, it doesn't make any sense. I remember when Cortez first put up their McDonald's. You know, I've been here that long, all right, when I was a little kid. I love this town. Everybody who does business here and probably 2 counties east or 1 county south, everybody comes into Cortez. The center of your education, the center of your commerce is right here. This affects more than just the people living, the 8,000 members of Cortez. It's more people than just the 3-mile limit. It's everybody, this entire region. And that's the part that really gets me. That's why I'm here and probably never going to get hired for an internship.
And I would like to speak to your transparency. We have had a terrible time with transparency with these people. I just emailed Tracy Hughes and asked her for a list of the people that they picked for the citizens community or the citizens participation group to help them on this, and I was told they would not do that. So I will have to do a Cora request if I want to do it, but they literally emailed me back and said they were not going to do that.
Muckrock.com. You can get anything you want, and they will back you up, and it won't cost you a penny.
Thank you.
Muckrock.com. If you want to do Freedom of Information Act, M-U-C-K-R-O-C-K. Okay? So I'm just telling you, that's how I do my FOIA requests. That's just open. Everybody ought to be a citizen journalist. And by God, if you serve like this guy right here, you should be in everybody's business. All right? Or she is.
Does this include businesses too that have flat roofs?
No, I'm talking residents.
Just residents, but it's not going to affect businesses. Because you know how many businesses on Main Street have a flat roof? But not only that, the city building has a flat roof. And if they're going to have to put a pitch roof on it, I want to know who's going to pay for it, and I don't want to pay for it.
I just wanted to echo Larry Don's words about how policy governance works a little bit. What I've kind of seen, and over my years of serving on a board, and is the people that we elect drive the bus. Right now, they're not driving the bus. The employees are driving the bus, and that needs to change. And that's one of the reasons. Again, I'm not up here to politic or say, you know, help me get on the commission. That's what I'm doing. But in my opinion, we the voters speak through the people we elect. The people we elect help us drive the bus. And again, according to policy governance, the city is the employee of us and the council. We're in charge, not them. And I think sometimes, and again, this is just my opinion, that, you know, to avoid questions, to avoid, you know, answering why this is in the code, you know, maybe they're not, again, being as transparent as they need to be. What I'm saying is the employing part, the staff part of our town isn't being as forthcoming with information to the council. So I don't know that it's all the council to say, oh, it's all the council. Sometimes they're just a little bit misinformed. But as a good council individual, council person, it is our job to make sure that we know that we ask questions, and if we're not, we're asking the questions that you want us to ask and governing the way that we're supposed to govern.
Okay, where was I? Now, and to me, that was one of, everybody okay? Well, and that to the committee or whatever they called it, that they handpicked a few people that they wanted to make these determinations. And it's like they did not do a survey or have a committee. They should have had committees or groups of people like me, people like these business owners, come in 10 at a time, talk to us. They should have talked to at least 200 people, not 4 or 5 people. I read in there it was a couple people like they have, and I won't even go there, but it's just a couple people that are in the area, you know. They didn't ask the common people. They did not ask the citizens of Cortez what we wanted our town to look like. And that's why we don't want our city to be dictated, or the look of our city or homes to be dictated by the limited vision of a few citizens. We want a thorough survey. And if they table this, I think that's what they should do to revise the current land use code. They should bring citizens in and question them, ask them what in here, and business owners, especially people that build houses, construction workers, road builders, what have you. Okay, so off of that, that's good. At the very beginning of this, section 1.01, they state that the purpose in this document is the regulations of this code shall be for the purpose of promoting prosperity, blah, blah, blah. This is not true. Far from promoting prosperity, this code will prohibit current owners from making additions, upgrades, and improvements to their homes without thousands of dollars of expenditures for unnecessary changes. It will prevent young people just starting out from purchasing affordable modular homes, which is often the first step in home ownership and all the pay scales the businesses in Cortez will support. At the same time, the restrictions and thousands of dollars of unnecessary expense on businesses will deter any new businesses, which might bring more jobs and higher pay scales. Am I back? I'm reading from my notes because I'm not a public speaker. You can tell I'm nervous, so I have to read what I wrote. And this is, by the way, this is what I sent to the city, 4 pages of stuff that I dug out. And I did read through the whole thing. I read through the business sections. I didn't make comments on that because I knew business people were. This is just on the residential stuff that impacts residents mainly. And their tables have errors in them. You can't look at their table and tell what the setback is. It's not defined. They don't define what a temporary limited is. Dave's already touched on the hours of operations, so I won't touch that. Let me get back over here. And again, into my little thing, what I thought was going to be easy. I could get Dave to come over on a weekend and we could throw up 2 walls and expand my bedroom. Now I've got to hire an architect and a civil engineer before I can get a permit to do that. And if I do it without a permit, they can fine me $2,650 a day till I tear it all down again. So, that is just far overreaching. It's unnecessary. There's also in section 7.0109, there is a section where it states, it's talking about collector roads, and I think it's called collector and arterial versus local streets. If your house right now, and say for 57 years, it's been going out onto this one collector street, but there's a local street that's access to, they can require you to move your, actually it says it shall be moved if the principal building is redeveloped. What does that mean? Yeah. What does redeveloped or a material change is made to that? They can make you move your driveway, put in a concrete. What if your current driveway goes to a garage? You know, what's going to happen there? This language is in there, and that's why this is such a detrimental document. And we don't want it into law because it's subject to interpretation. You can have a city employee have a bad morning, maybe his car broke down on the way to work and you happen to go in there to get a permit or whatever. Nah, you can't have it. That should not be. It should be, and then the next day somebody else could come in, ask for the same exact thing and get a permit. It shouldn't be subject to that. There should be no interpretation to it. And I think that's about the main, everybody has touched on most of this. I do object to the fact that they also have a clause in here for, on Main Street, only Colorado-grown produce can be sold. I like to buy my hatch peppers from these vendors that come in because they're cheaper than I have to go to Walmart or somewhere and buy them, right? So, I mean, that to me violates the essence of free enterprise, you know? And, okay, yep, I'm done, I'm about. Okay, so, and one other thing is they're requiring businesses to put in landscaping and irrigation systems at a time when we should be conserving natural resources, not using more water and more electricity. And instead of enhancing the beauty of our community, this proposed land use code puts unreasonable requirements and restrictions that will mean that many current homeowners will not be able to afford to remodel and improve the look of their homes. And within 10 years, Cortez will be an unsightly collection of dilapidated neighborhoods. So thank you. Go to the meeting. I'm normally in warm Arizona at this time of the year. I'm staying here for this until after the meeting so I can go and use my voice at the meeting on the 28th.
Thank you. So I think we can maybe take a few more questions, but we kind of need to wrap this up. We could talk about this for a week, actually. So if there's anybody with a question.
Yeah, I'm back. I need clarification. Did you honestly say they are trying to dictate what people can sell?
Absolutely. You have to sell Colorado.
You guys get that?
Produce.
Do you realize what they're trying to do to us?
Yeah, we do.
I'm speechless.
Yeah. Oh, crack this open and read it, and you'll get even more speechless. All right. Last chance. All right. Well, I'm going to.
So we just want to close and tell you thank you for coming tonight. If you did not get the yellow pad, it's on this back table. Please print your name and email address, and we will get out whatever information we have. The calendars that are on the table are for you to take and learn. They are constitutional calendars. Compliments of the Republican women, Dave Waters, and some other people that have donated to get them printed. Thank you for coming.
Amico, I
Yes.
guess we had one other person that wanted to make a comment.
Oh,
Ron Snyder.
okay, one more person.
Ron Snyder.
Can we have it quiet, please? Can we have it quiet, please? We have one more person.
We have one more.
I just had a thought at this late point as far as before the decision is made, but if we're limited to 4 minutes, I mean, on the 28th, I don't know about the one before that, but there might need to be some coordination a little bit between people so that a broad array of ideas is brought out, as well as the strong ones that are repeated, so that we represent as well as we can. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you.